Well, I think for these changes to be sustainable, they have to be developed by Bosnians themselves. They cannot be imposed from the outside world. And I think the international community has a clear role in setting a number of broad conditions and the framework within which these changes can occur. But I don't think the international community is in a position to dictate to Bosnians how their constitutions should look like. And it cannot do that because of the constitution itself. So there needs to be a political process that will allow these actors to reach consensus on a number of constitutional changes. And it doesn't have to be a comprehensive set of changes, but the European Union could condition membership progression or integration progression on reaching a number of incremental changes to the constitutional structure. When we look at if you look at the provisions that were discussed and put forward and were debated before the Parliamentary Assembly in 2006 to reform the Constitution, the provisions or the amendments to the Constitution were not particularly intrusive. We were looking at a number of, I wouldn't say superficial changes, but a number of limited changes to the central level institutions. So one could imagine that a constitutional reform process proceeds incrementally and could use the 2006 model as a starting point, not as a definite point, but as a starting point for discussions. Another element, I think, of constitutional change pertains to the Finchy case. And I think that could be the first step in changing the constitution in a way that makes Bosnia a more functional and democratic state. So I think that will be a priority of this government to seek to quickly address the Finchy case and comply with the requirements set forth by the European Convention on Human Rights. And if the government does so, then it will demonstrate that it is able to tackle constitutional change. And so I see the process of constitutional change as a gradual one. I think one of the starting points for a gradual process of constitutional reform could very well be the Finchy case. So the Finchy case requires, and the decision of the European Court for Human Rights requires a number of changes to the Constitution. And we're not talking about an overhaul of the constitutional structure, but about specific changes to one set of rules of eligibility to the presidency in order to comply with international obligations. So that would be a very focused starting point for constitutional change. And I think it's extremely important for the government to tackle this earlier on to show that it is serious about its European aspirations and that it is capable of embarking on a series of changes to the Constitution that will be gradual, that will be based on consensus, and that will be domestically led. So I think that is a clear opportunity for this government to start the process.